So today we're talking custom home construction timelines. And although they aren't going to be the same for every project, we're going to run through 10 things that allow you to be able to get from point A to point Z. Let's get to it. So as mentioned, we've covered these topics in previous videos. So if you want a more detailed explanation, feel free to go and check those out at a later time. However, today we're going to go through rapid fire, the 10 steps that get us to completion. The first phase is going to be our lot prep. This entails demo and pad certification, which allows us to be able to over-X and get our pad ready to build. This process takes about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the scope of the project, which allows us to be able to move on to our foundation, which is phase 2. In our foundation, we're looking at 4 to 6 weeks again, depending on what it is that you're pouring, whether that be a monolithic pour or whether that be a 3-part pour, which is standard for us at Rebuild the Block. We won't get into the details, but sometimes foundation can take a little bit longer, especially if we're talking about pouring a basement. But for our standard project, slab on grade, 4 to 6 weeks is what we need to be able to complete phase 2, which now brings us to phase 3, which is probably the most exciting phase for our clients, which is framing. Typically, framing will break into 4 main pieces, which is going to be our exterior wall framing, our truss delivery and installation, our interior wall completion, and any of the final details that include sheeting, as well as any custom rafter tails or detailed work that needs to be completed. As soon as phase 3 is complete, we're going to move on to phase 4, which is going to be our roughing phase, which includes all of our electrical, plumbing, and mechanical, as well as any of our window and door installation, which typically takes somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks to be able to coordinate these key aspects and systems that are located within our homes. And then once we're done with those items, we're able to move on to the dry-in phase, which would include all of our roofing, exterior finishes, as well as our insulation and sheetrock interior. This is probably one of the longer phases to take place as we're able to coordinate our stucco facades typically found here in the desert with our sheetrock work inside. And this is going to be somewhere around 8 to 12 weeks to be able to get through this whole process. Once everything's wrapped up with stage 5, this is a huge milestone for us because it's what we would consider the shell of the home. Ultimately, now everything's complete and we're ready to move on to the critical phase that most people enjoy most, which is our finishing stage. As we move on to stage 6, this is where all our interior finishes will start to come together. We'll be able to start with tile, flooring, trim carpentry, all of our cabinetry, and our countertops to be able to take care of a majority of the surface finishes throughout the home. And this is when a home really starts to take shape and you're able to see the uniqueness of the custom home that you've been waiting for months to be able to come to fruition. Depending on the overall complexity of the finish schedule that you have in mind or that's been designed with your custom home, this is the area that can really take the most amount of time, as it's the things that are seen that need to be done as perfectly as possible to be able to get the fit and finish that you had desired in a custom home. We typically see this process take anywhere from, let's say, 16 weeks to roughly 24 weeks, dependent on how much trim work is located throughout the home and how large the home might be. So as we move down the line, the next interior stage would entail all of our painting details. Now, typically because of the stucco, we'll have a synthetic stucco, so we don't have a lot of painting on the exterior, but this will entail interior painting as well as exterior painting and any epoxy that might be located maybe in a garage cavity. Now, this process typically will take a couple weeks to be able to complete, as painting is obviously a critical component, and that's if the painters are able to be able to establish throughout the home without too much work taking place during the duration of this amazing and critical phase of the project. So if I missed it before, painting is going to be stage 7, and then during the process of getting paint ready, sometimes we'll be able to stack on the exterior, starting our final grade and getting prep ready for landscape and exterior features within the home. Depending on the overall size of the lot and the complexities of the exterior features that are included within the landscape architecture package, this process can range anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to be able to get fully complete, which is one of the reasons that we would try to stack an exterior phase with an interior phase such as paint. So while we're cranking on phase 8 and getting all the exterior features in process, we're finally done with paint, which allows us to be able to move to final trim out, which we're able to bring our electricians, plumbers, and HVAC specialists back into the house, as well as all the finishes such as mirrors and final details such as wallpaper to be able to complete. This is phase 9, and typically will take somewhere between 3 to 6 weeks to be able to complete, at which we get to our favorite part of the process, but probably our clients, which would be phase 10, which is punch out. And punch out allows us to be able to get all little details in perfect alignment before move-in day for our clients. And we want to make sure that we run through the house with a fine-tooth comb. And this process typically could take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to be able to complete. and sometimes longer if you have a larger estate property that we'll be building. Ultimately, it takes somewhere between 12 and 15 months to be able to complete a custom home residence with Rebuild the Block. Now, while these timeframes are going to be unique for every single project, the reality is a majority of our homes get completed in those timeframes, and we have a great process that allows us to be able to see these lookouts for our clients during the course of construction. We hope that this video has been informative and that we've been able to run through the 10 phases of construction that allow you to be able to understand what it might entail if you decide to take on a custom home project in the future. As always, we appreciate you following along. Feel free to subscribe below, and if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. Have a great day.